Hi, brothers and sisters. Welcome to Great Path Ministries once again. And today we're going to be looking at a video entitled, They Pissed Off the Wrong People Who Taught Diddy Everything He Knows. So this is on the Valuetainment channel. And it's narrated by Richard Bate David. So let's get right into it.
Some very strange things are going on with Diddy's case. Let me explain to you why. Think about what happened with Ghislaine Maxwell, who was the lead prosecutor. The same person that when Epstein was being held accountable was the same lead prosecutor that is now with Diddy. This person's been the lead prosecutor for all three of them. What do you think is going to happen with Diddy? Is Diddy going to be O.J. Simpson 2.0? You know, he's going to go free and nothing's going to happen to him? Slap on it. However, we couldn't find anything so far when we're looking at the case with Cassie Ventura. What do we know? We know the fact that he hit her. We've seen the videos. We know the fact that the freak-offs were taking place, that he was hiring people from Craigslist, that he was paying them $1,500 to $6,000, depending on how well of a job they were doing performing. With her, she would have to do some really nasty things, drink, urine, all these weird things that they have in the documentation. He would put a mask on, so when the Craigslist person would show up, they didn't know who he was. She would put a wig on. His nickname was Frank Black, and her nickname...
I find it interesting that the same prosecutor is being used in these cases. It's the same, individual, so could it be that no wonder they're going, well, I mean, when it comes to Maxwell was arrested, right? And then Epstein ended up dead, so they didn't actually get away, but this is a similar case. And sometimes I just tend to think if it's the same circles of people, could it be, like maybe it's, by design? But anyway, let's just move on and watch the video.
Was Jackie Star, all this stuff we know already. But then you see text messages. I can't wait for the next freak off. I can't wait to have your child. I can't live my life without you. Is this leading to this guy being innocent? All of this stuff we got going on here right now. Or maybe he pissed off the wrong person. Maybe he had this incredible protection from the top from some very, very powerful people that maybe he offended. Who knows? All of a sudden like this happens. We're going to talk about that today. If you value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you want all these notes, stick around till the very end. I'm going to show you how to get them. All right, so let's get right into it. Check this out. This guy Diddy, when you look at his net worth, 2022, he's a billionaire. Oh, we hear it. We see it all over the place. Today, net worth roughly $300 million, $400 million. His net worth, if you look at it, was a lot of spirits. 70% was spirits, $700 million. $50 million was private investments. Then you see $75 million cash. 100 million real estate and collectibles, 75 million catalog and intellectual property. Go to it right now. Only $150 million is spirits. He lost $550 million there. Cash is lower and a bunch of other things are lower there. So what happened during that time when you think about his net worth? By the way, when you compare him to some other people net worth wise with Jay-Z, Dre, Diddy, and Kanye, this is what it looks like. Blue is Dre, orange is Jay-Z, green is Diddy, and purple is Kanye. Look what happened here. So Jay-Z keeps climbing. In 2011, he was roughly $450. Today he's $2.5 billion. Dre goes from where he was at $150 million at the time. He's worth roughly $980 million today. Diddy goes from $450, same place, to $1 billion, down to $300 million. And then Kanye goes from wherever he was. You look at the report today, you'll either see $300 million or $2.77 billion, depending on who's doing the audits. Forbes says $300 million. Okay, so let's go look at the Ciroc deal, what happened. So Diddy in 2007 does the Ciroc deal, which is a partnership with Diageo to revive Ciroc vodka, taking a 50-50 profit sharing role rather than the standard endorsement. As brand manager and CMO, he elevated the brand from 40,000 to over 2 million cases a year, making it a premium product. Now keep in mind, if you don't know who Diageo is, Diageo owns everybody. Johnny Walker, Crown Royal, Smirnoff, Kettle One, Don Julio, Casamigos, Captain Morgan, Bailey Irish Cream, Guinness. They own all these companies. So Ciroc, hey, this is big. We're bringing Diddy in. He's going to take it from 40,000 to 2 million. Profitable. This is great. Let's make some money together. 2013, De Leon Tequila co-ownership. Diddy and Diageo jointly acquired De Leon Tequila, making it a deeper investment relationship. May of 2023, Diddy sues Diageo. Diddy filed a lawsuit accusing Diageo of neglecting the De Leon brand, racial discrimination, claiming they marketed it as an urban product and failed to treat him as a true business partner. Then in January 2024, they settled out of court. Diageo and Diego settled the dispute out of court. While details still remain sealed, the settlement marked the end of their business relationship. So this is from 07 till 2024, 17 years. Could they have protected him? I don't know. Their CEO currently today is Deborah Ann Crew. She was a former intelligence officer in the military. Once intelligence officer, forever you're an intelligence officer. Who knows what happened? We don't know the relationship. We're not going to make any accusations. All we know is, could this have been a protection where they were at the parties and they knew things that were taking place and are like, wait, what do you want to do to us? No problem. Boom, drop the bomb. I don't know. All I'm saying is the timing is kind of strange. Maybe even they wanted to kind of be like, look, we know what's about to be dropped on this guy. We want to have nothing to do with you. We're out. Here's some money. You stay quiet. We'll pay you, but we want to get out of here. The only thing that the timing is kind of crazy is January 2024, they settle. 2 months later, remember what we're sitting there doing and minding our own business? And you hear, March of 2024, the feds are raiding Diddy's Miami home and his LA home. For what? What are they trying to get? And you saw them pulling out.
One thing that came to mind the first time I saw this is, could this be a distraction? And to be honest, like, I think part of this might have been a distraction, okay? Simply because at the end of the day, you have this individual get away with the bigger stuff, the bigger cases, accusations, the allegations, right? The bigger stuff, he got away with that. So then I'm thinking, was this all, by design for a purpose? But we don't really know, right? We don't really know until the whole thing kind of blows over. Then we go like, okay, so that's what it was really about. But moving on.
All these boxes. What's going on over here? Federal agents raided his Miami and LA home, seizing 90 terabytes of digital data. What are you taking? Bunch of letters he wrote? What do you think they're getting there, right? Multiple unregistered firearms, over 1,000 bottles of lubricant, allegedly linked to coerced sex events. His associate, Brandon Paul, was arrested at a Miami airport, and Diddy's jet was tracked to Antigua, though he remained in the U.S. We all remember this. This is nothing new. May of 2024, guess what footage is released? Cassie Ventura's footage. How long have you been having it, CNN? Since 2016. You haven't released it till now? No. Who made the phone call to say release it now? Who? Who was kind of like, we're done with this guy. You're not back. You're threatened to say this. Release the footage, right? So they released the footage. He comes out, issues an apology. While his lawyers accuse the government of leaking the tape, it was later admitted as evidence in his trial. Again, January deal. March is raiding his house, Miami and LA. May, here's a video being dropped from.
Just imagine that amount of content that's on a lot of these so-called celebrities, that they have tapes and they just won't release them because they're in, good behavior with certain persons, right? Certain important persons, until, they ruffle the wrong feathers and, get into trouble with the big guys, and, things like this happen, right? Because they push the wrong buttons and, they end up in a situation.
CNN, even though they've been sitting on it for 8 years. September 2024, book is released, Kim's Lost Words, which, by the way, there's a lot of speculation with this thing here, so whatever I'm reading you is not necessarily 100%. It is there, it is not there.
I believe that Kim Porter diary, or whatever it is, that book, I believe there's a lot of truth in that. I do think that most of it, if not everything, is true. Simply because it's the kind of stuff that you would expect an individual like this to be involved in.
The alias they use on who wrote the book is Shanti Millwood, which is an alias for Tupac, which is kind of weird. Why would you use that? This book appeared on Amazon, allegedly written by Kim Porter, accused Diddy of abuse misconduct with minors. Porter's children denounced it as fake. Investigators revealed the real author was Chris Todd, who claimed he compiled the book from a mysterious flash drive. Amazon removed the book a month later in October. So September last year was a rough year for him because that's when the lawsuit comes out and he's arrested and indicted on federal charges, racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, and transportation for prostitution. The indictment claimed he ran a criminal enterprise from 2008 to 2024. He pleaded not guilty and remained jailed at MDC Brooklyn, where his bail offers was up to $50 million, was rejected. Then all of a sudden, October, wave of lawsuits come out, okay? Attorney Tony Busby filed numerous lawsuits against Diddy with over 120 cases. Planned allegations span sexual abuse, drugging, coercion, often tied to industry events. Some suits implicate third parties, including Marriott International, for allegedly enabling the abuse. Like, you allowed for this to happen and you knew it was taking place. Then it comes to today, May of 2025, the trial begins. Okay, so what is he being prosecuted for? You got charges for racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, and transportation for prostitution. That's what's taking place right now. What is he not being prosecuted for that he's been allegedly accused of doing over the years? For example, sexual abuse of minors ages 9 to 17 in the 90s, 2000 civil suits. You know what happened? Likely barred by statute of limitations or lacked sufficient criminal evidence. Gone. Murder, blackmail, and surveillance claims, Kim Porter, drive leagues.
You know, it's not a crime until it's not a crime until you're doing something they don't like. It's not a crime if you're part of the big boys, the big boy club. It's not a crime, right? Until you're actually not in the circle anymore. If they don't regard you as such.
Highly speculative with no verified forensics or corroborating evidence. Gone. Arson, alleged car bombing of Kid Cudi's vehicles, alleged by Cassie but not supported by public documentation or prosecutable evidence. Gone. Civil allegations from 120 accusers, many told unverified and not investigated fully. Some may still be under review, but right now we only know about 4. So this is the one part that we got to be thinking about, because a lead prosecutor can determine whether your crime is going to be bigger or less, more scrutinized, and people are going to be looking at everything, or less. I mean, if you think about President Trump, right, in New York, you have the case that came out with Stormy Daniels, hush money, that could have been civil. Whatever the number was, $125,000, didn't need to be criminal. He's a convicted felon, but the guy that was a lead prosecutor was a guy named Matthew Colangelo, and guess who's the one that appointed him? DA Alvin Bragg. And who is Alvin Bragg? Do you think Alvin Bragg loves Trump? No, they wanted to make him a convicted felon to just kind of destroy him. In this case, is the complete opposite. Who the lead prosecutor is for Diddy. It used to be Damian Williams, who was the lead prosecutor until he resigned in December of 2024. Damian Williams is a pretty connected guy. He's been a lead prosecutor on a lot of different things. You ready? Epstein, you got Diddy, you got Ghislaine Maxwell, and many others. He was appointed by President Biden. He used to work, had a relations with the Soros family. So he steps away in December of 2024 for Diddy. Why would he step away? And you know who replaces him as a lead prosecutor? Maureen Comey. You know who Maureen Comey is? She is James Comey, the former director of FBI that put the 8647 on his Instagram. She is his daughter. That is now the lead prosecutor going against Diddy. Do you think Diddy's going to end up being guilty? Who knows? We'll find out if she's going to go after him hard or not. Now, to be fair, Damian Williams and Maureen Comey both were the prosecutors, going against Sam.
Clearly, you can see that because of all his connections, somebody ended up essentially not being charged for the serious crimes, Let's say if you're connected like this and you get the right, lawyers, and you pay your way out. You lessen the weight of the crime.
Been freed and decided to kind of not look at the donations that he made. I think it was the second biggest for Democrats, and he gave a bunch of Republicans as well. He was trying to buy everybody out during that time. And this comes down to one other thing with Maureen Comey, to just kind of give her a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. She was a lead prosecutor going against Robert Hayden. Robert Hayden was a gynecologist who was accused of, taking advantage of clients that were coming in. And one of them was Andrew Yang's wife, if I'm not mistaken. He was doing a lot of weird things. He went away 20 years in jail. So I don't want to put it here and say Maureen Comey's not going to go after certain people. She has. But in this case, Ghislaine, Epstein, Diddy, kind of weird. They're kind of weird. Bribery, reputation of what they did. A little weird that the same person is a lead prosecutor on those three different people. So this was kind of weird with Diddy, with certain patterns on certain people in his life. I had Suge Knight on. Well, around the same time while this is going on, 6, 7, 8 months ago. And he says, look, no man wakes up one day and learns how to do this kind of stuff. What do you mean no man wakes up one day? Somebody had to teach you on how to bribe and do this and hold people hostage and da-da-da-da-da. Kind of weird. And then Clive Davis's name comes up. And in Clive Davis, apparently, when you look at this in the early 70s,
that's a very good point that you just made there. Nobody just wakes up and just learns how to do this. You gotta be taught. That's a very, very, very. This is the most important point in this whole thing. So he's about to probably unpack some stuff. And this is where you see that they'll talk about one person. So if an individual is not behaving himself within the circles, and they go like, this guy, he needs to be punished. He's not really behaving himself. And or maybe they need to set an example. They need somebody to blame. Like, we need somebody to blame for this. We need to make it look like we're trying to clean up. Give some people some hope. Like there's still some good up there in high places, So I think, you can see through all this when you just think about it clearly, right?
Federal authorities started investigating whether major records, including Columbia Records, division of CBS, were directly or indirectly involved in a drug-fueled payola scheme. These were illegal arrangements where drugs or money were allegedly used to bribe radio DJs and stations to give preferential airplay to certain artists. You know who was the leading guy for Columbia at the time? A guy named Clive Davis in 1973, a rising executive and then president of Columbia Records, fired by CBS in 1973. The official reason cited the misuse of company funds. He was accused of charging personal expense, including lavish bar mitzvah costs for his son, to the company. Obviously that's not good, but if you look at the charts, you hear them using heroin and other drugs to bribe DJs. Even his former EA testified and gave statements that Clive Davis authorized payola practices, further damaging his reputation. So what does Clive Davis do? Starts his own company called Arista Records in 1974. Now, while he's going through, the CBS sues him to recover some of the funds. Davis was not indicted or charged with any crime, including the broader allegation on payola or drug-related misconduct. So the relationship between Clive Davis and Diddy is interesting, because when Diddy's 23 years old, he's making a name for himself. Clive gave him $15 million to start Bad Boy Records. And then later on, they did even a bigger deal where Clive gave him $50 million advance on future earnings. This is 5 years later in 1998. $6 million upfront payment, $700,000 annual salary, and a state-of-the-art recording studio. We're talking a $2 million recording studio. This is when he went after Faith Evans. He got Biggie in the early 90s. This is when it started. But there's a relationship with Clive. And it's interesting because Clive later on, they say something may have happened here, because Suge said Clive taught him the bad habits. And later on, Clive comes out and says the following. Yes, record mogul Clive Davis has identified as being bisexual. He publicly revealed in his memoir, this is not allegedly, he said it, the soundtrack of my life. At the age of 80, he also discussed in an interview with Katie Couric, expressing the hope that his coming out would contribute to greater understanding of bisexuality. It's Clive Davis. And on top of that, very weird, the principal of the high school that Diddy went to school to. This is like complete.
What's really funny to me is how they got past the jury jumped over those racketeering charges, you would have to be either blind, something has to be really wrong after listening to all the witnesses, when it comes to those records. I don't know. I don't know. Everything just seems so awkward, you know? Everything seems so awkward. At least they charged him for prostitution, but that wasn't the biggest stuff. That wasn't the biggest stuff that we saw with evidence. So this jury they had to skip, jump, all kinds of things. Something is not right.
Crazy. In 1987, Reverend Bernard Lynch and brother Timothy Brady were accused of sexually abusing students at Mount St. Michael Academy in Bronx, New York. While this was happening, the allegations involved the molestation of 3 boys. While the timing overlaps Diddy enrollment at school, there is no public record or indication that he was among the victims, and no one knows the 3 boys' names. So Timothy Brady goes and gets convicted, goes to jail. He's in prison. But when he comes out, he goes back and is reassigned by Marist Brothers to a Catholic high school in Chicago, where he worked from 1993 to 2005, 12 more years after what he's doing to boys. This makes a lot of sense, right? And then Reverend Bernard Lynch was indicted in 98, stood trial in 89 on the abuse of former student. He was acquitted of all charges. Lynch has maintained that his prosecution was a result of a witch hunt due to his AIDS ministry and advocacy for LGBT.
So I'm going to stop the video here. If you want to see the entire video, you can go on the Valuetainment channel. But I'm going to say this. I believe that all this is happening because lawlessness is on the rise. This is what I believe scripturally, because because if somebody is charged for all these cases and you have video evidence, credible video evidence, to show. I mean, I wasn't in the courts. I don't know what they talked about, how their discussion went back and forth. But at the end of the day, it's like there's a lot of questionable activity going on around this person, that if you put it all together, it would simply point to the fact that this individual is guilty of most of these cases. Okay, because there isn't just one person saying this, there's multiple people saying that he was racketeering and and abusing, and there's some type of video evidence showing this type of behavior. So then the only thing that comes to mind is this is a way to sort of try to get people to think somebody can get away with this kind of a thing. And let me just make it short and say this. Matthew 24 verse 12. And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. So that's what I see with this Diddy situation, and the Epstein situation is when you look at the case with Donald Trump, he's now ignoring the whole case and is just going like, I can't believe we're still talking about Epstein, that freak, and he's trying to now fan the flames. Is it fan the flames of his supporters, instead of trying to help them solve the situation, solve the case, he expose the files. Is now going like, hey, we're still talking about this guy, so we have that. At the same time, almost at the same time, we have the Diddy situation. where they just ignored all the big charges, all the big allegations against him, and they just brought it down to 2 cases of prostitution. And those 2 cases of prostitution he can easily serve maybe just like 5 years with good behavior or something, you know. So it's like they're trying to really make a crazy situation, a perverse situation, look like it's a very small case. Like this is like a minor case of, you know, like prostitution or whatever. Well, not minor, but you get the point, you know. So this is what I'm seeing with all this. It's like they're trying to push this environment of lawlessness. They're trying to push lawlessness. You know, so but that's it for now, brothers and sisters. Please subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching the video. Like the video, and until next time, God bless you.